It's an undisputed fact that the Highlands of Scotland are world-renowned for their natural beauty and breathtaking scenery. They're also known for their rich culture and dramatic history, all of which can be found right here in the Upper Deveron Valley. Set between Aberdeenshire and Moray, with the Cairngorms National Park to the south and the Speysides Malt Whisky Trail and Moray Firth to the north, the Upper Deveron's communities have a centuries-old tradition of responding to change and living with the landscape. However, this long heritage of resilience is being tested in ways that previous generations could never have expected. Communities such as the Cabrach, Glas and Rhynie may have small populations, but people have lived here for at least 4,000 years and have survived invaders, rebellions and even world wars. Facing the 21st century challenges of economic regeneration and the global fight against climate change, the area is embracing the concept of transitioning from a dependence on fossil fuels to a bright new future based upon sustainable solutions. But that new vision brings challenges of its own. Jonathan Christie, Chief Executive of the Cabrach Trust, explains.
All our projects and programmes here are informed by our history and the heritage of the Cabrach. So here in this building we're going to bring to life distilling in the Cabrach again. We will have a distillery which will produce a spirit of unparalleled quality and bring to market a new product whilst employing people in the Cabrach again and creating a stronger identity for the Cabrach. Again, you set foot out onto the fields of Inverharrick and you see the new wellbeing trails that have been put in place. You see the nature ponds, you see the programme of tree planting, and there's a whole host of activities tied to the land, the history, the heritage of this place that are part of the regeneration process that's going to be ongoing here over coming years.
The need to address the climate emergency. Policymakers have stressed the requirement for a just transition which recognises that climate ambition and fairness must go hand in hand, and that success depends upon consensus. Lord Debon, Chair of the Committee on Climate Change, has insisted that the energy transition must be made by the people of Scotland, not done to the people of Scotland. Magnus Davidson, lecturer at the University of the Highlands and Islands, has clear views about what a just transition means for communities like the Upper Deveron.
It's about making sure peatlands are restored, it's about making sure rural communities are in control of their own futures. It's all about everything that we live from day to day as we transition to net zero.
The Upper Deveron Valley is already playing its part in the fight against climate change. For such a small population, it already plays host to 2 large operational wind farms, and people have become familiar with the sight of tall turbines dotted across the local skyline. Patty Nelson is chair of the Cabrach Community Association.
People are concerned about their health, mostly down to noise-related issues. One type of noise called enhanced amplitude modulation, which is I liken it to a tumble dryer going. Some people can get it in their houses. We have had here. Some people are affected that they can't sleep that well. Some people have said that it affects if they have hearing aids. There was a big issue among some members of the community how much peat was actually removed when some of the wind farms went in. That is a concern because obviously peat wetlands store a great deal of carbon.
Local people here in the Upper Deveron community accept that the area has a duty to contribute to the national drive towards a net zero economy and very much want to play their part. But there are increased voices saying enough is enough, arguing that the intensity of developments in this area has reached saturation point. Ewan Cameron, a local resident and engineer, is very concerned.
The current local area has 2 major wind farms, Dornell and Clashindarragh, and the residents have been living with that and experiencing the effects of that for a number of years now. There's a proposal for an additional 5 new developments. Presently there's 77 turbines in the local vicinity, and again, that's going to increase to about 150 turbines, which is more than doubling the concentration of turbines, and then the effects of stuff will proportionally increase because the number of turbines have increased.
So what will this look like if all these schemes go ahead? We asked a leading engineering consultancy to simulate the impact to help people imagine how the planned developments might look, especially at some of the area's much-loved landmarks. Firstly, looking north from the Grouse Inn towards Inverharach and downstream towards the Haw of Glass, we can see the proposed wind farms at Craigwatch ahead, Garbett Hill to the northwest, and Clashindarroch extension to the east, with the existing scheme at Clashindarroch beyond. Combined, this would serve to encircle the upper Deveron Valley. They can also be seen from the site of the new Cabrach Distillery and Heritage Centre. Craigwatch and Garbett Hill wind farms will sit in close proximity to the famous and listed Pictish hill fort of Craigdornie, one of Scotland's most ancient monuments. These local beauty spots are key factors in current proposals to attract visitors to the area, all of which mean jobs and income for local villages. The plans for the improvements to the tourist infrastructure are already underway, but the Upper Deveron community is concerned that the intensity of proposed wind farm developments is likely to ruin the unspoilt appeal of this centuries-old landscape and adversely affect their vision for the future. Similarly, if we head up the Cabrach from another prominent landmark, the historic Auchindoun Castle, we see the effect of new turbine developments at Glenfiddich, in addition to the existing Dornell scheme. The sight of turning blades is everywhere, and the landscape is set to be fundamentally changed. Colin Mackenzie is a local whisky historian and is concerned about the threat to important archaeological sites.
Now I think is a time to pause and think, are we going too far? Are we going to destroy this heritage? I think the whisky story can still be told in the Cabrach. There are some bothies which are so far fairly unaffected, but if we carry on at this rate, then we're going to largely lose that.
Another key factor to be considered is the necessity for any further development of onshore wind farms. Richard Hammock, Chair of Friends of Clash, questions the need.
Operators of wind farms, developers, need a good wind quality, and this therefore tends to crowd them into specific locations. And what it leads to is what we have locally, which is an overcrowding. We have far too many turbines, too much density. And it comes at a time when offshore wind farm developments are stepping up to provide the renewable energy that's required. And so it seems to me that we should now preserve what is left of the scenery that otherwise would be compromised by overdevelopment and shift the renewable requirement offshore.
Clearly, there are competing visions for what can and should be done. But who decides when any one area has reached its saturation point?
Different counties in Scotland have got strategic capacity studies which show where wind farms could be placed without too much detriment, and where it's overcrowded and they really shouldn't be anymore. And actually Upper Deveron Valley is one of those places, according to both Murray and Aberdeenshire's strategic capacity study. I think Michael Matheson, the Scottish Government, should do a strategic capacity study for the whole of Scotland. They should designate where it's appropriate for further onshore wind farm developments, and also, of course, where offshore wind developments would be better. But we don't have an overall renewable strategy. What we have is different developers cherry-picking sites where they think that they will be able to get planning permission and where the wind quality is good without any reference to any form of strategy.
Community experts agree that there is an urgent need for local voices to be heard.
So beyond the concerns that the Cabrach Trust hold, I think it's really important that the wider community plays a very active role in terms of the conversations that will be happening, the decisions that are being made about this area as well. So over recent months there's been a fantastic exercise of the community really mobilising getting together, sharing thoughts, sharing ideas, sharing concerns, and bringing that together into a working group who are united in terms of their concerns for this area, their ambition for this area, but also their appreciation of what they need to do as a group to support their contribution in terms of a just transition.
The threats and stuff are immediate, so the action needs to be taken now because the planning applications are all live and going through the process. And that's why I believe the local community voice should have a stronger place in the application, and also the community should have a significant input into the planning application, because they're the ones that effectively would live with them and their families and the generations that follow.